Hey, today we're going to talk about brain training. We're going to talk about how to train both sides of our brains to function together, to coordinate things. I don't want your kids to feel like they can't learn because they're just a right brain learner or just a left brain learner. I don't want children to feel that just because they have a learning disability of some sort, which may be legitimate, that they aren't able to grow their brain. And I don't want kids to be so tired in learning that they kind of zone out and don't catch what you're saying. When I see my kids' eyes starting to zone out, I think to myself, it's time to do something different. It's time to adjust our activity level and to change things up a little bit. I wish if I had my way, there would be a resource of some kind that would list all of the different things that we could do for brain training. So in my mind, I'm thinking about how to develop this, and I would like to include it throughout our curriculum. In the meantime, I'm hoping that this video will give you lots and lots of ideas so that you feel like you can turn to it. Maybe you can print it, stick it in your teacher notebook, and you can go to it and get ideas every day on things to do to train your children's brain. Now, you have two sides of your brain, the right side and the left side. And I want you to know right now, as I'm teaching this, I had a brain injury in 2020. And sometimes I can't keep my rights and my lefts straight, and I get confused. So I'm going to blame it all on that, okay? But I understand what it's like to be exhausted when I'm learning things and to feel like the two sides of my brain are not making a connection. The best example I can give is when I had my really severe concussion, a traumatic brain injury in 2020, and shortly afterwards I would stare at a Hebrew letter and I wouldn't remember what sound it made. And at this point I could read Hebrew. So I was really frustrated. Evidently wherever it was that I got hurt in my brain made it so that the two sides of my brain could not communicate with each other. And one of the reasons I know that is because Hebrew is a very visual thing. I mean, when I'm learning it as an English speaker, I have to first learn an entirely different alphabet. We call it the Aleph Bet. And those symbols have the same sounds that I've known all my life, but with an entirely different symbol. And so the visual side of my brain is looking at a new symbol, and it's having to go over to the information, the knowledge side of my brain and say, connect these two. And I struggled to do that. So basically what happens is you want to have the two hemispheres, the two sides of your brain communicating with each other and working together. So I'm going to give you some brain training ideas to help you do that, okay? Let's see. I'm going to start out with showing you some of the most simple ones that you can do. And this is one that you can start with any child. And that is crawling. Now, why does crawling help? Now, when you crawl, it's a little weird because it's like the right hand and the left leg have to work together, and the left arm and the right leg have to work together, and it's this back and forth. Okay, so when someone is crawling, they're switching back and forth from the two hemispheres, one that controls the right arm and to the left leg. Okay, and then you're switching and then doing it, so it's constantly going across both the sides of your brain, across the midline. So this may seem silly, but I would encourage you to have your children crawl. Now, some fun ways of doing that, if the weather is nice like today, is to go outside in the yard and have them crawl from point A to point B. You can have a race, okay? Races are so fun. So I want to recommend to you our PE curriculum, because in our PE curriculum we have all kinds of fun games and races that you can have. And those games, while they may be fun, are definitely using both sides of the body in a really big way. So when we use the large muscles, the large arm muscles, the large leg muscles, how do I say it? We are stimulating big parts of the brain. Now, when you go to read and write, there's going to be entirely different parts. Sometimes those get tired and you want to go back to stimulating the large muscles. Getting oxygen to those muscles really helps as well to encourage new neuron growth. So using those big muscles to run races, to do hopping and skipping and jumping and crawling and balance beams and all of these things, which balance beam is another great one to do. So I would add a second one on your list as a balance beam, because not only are you coordinating both arms right and left, but you're having to strengthen your ankle muscles. And there's something about your ankles, there's a lot of neurons there, a lot of stimulus. So as you balance on your ankles, you'd be surprised how difficult it is to balance. You are sending messages up to the brain and encouraging different parts of the brain to turn on. Now, you can stand on one leg. I don't know if you can see me very good. You can stand on one leg, and as you stand on one leg, you can do different things with your arms. You can do exercises like this, but you could also spell with the weak spelling words. Try it with your left leg, and now spell some more spelling words. Spell strawberry, strawberry, and have the kids increase the neurons that are being activated in their ankles as they do all kinds of balancing activities. From walking on a balance beam, you may not have a balance beam in your backyard, but you can easily draw a line and have them balance from point A to point B. Or do what my kids do. When you go to the shopping mall and you're parking in the parking lot, have them balance on those little curbs, at the end of each parking lot. That's really fun. Another one to do are figure eights. So figure eights are really useful. Here's a figure eight. I'm doing a figure eight. You can kind of see my 8 pattern that I'm making. I'm just doing this with one hand. And as I do this, I'm going to stare at one point in the I can't even talk at the same time. I'm going to stare ahead at one point, do my figure 8. Did you see how that worked though? I couldn't talk and do that at the same time. Now I'm going to turn my head and stare at that same point. I haven't moved my eyes, so now I'm going to come back to the middle and then come back here. They call these in therapy no-nos, because as I move my head very slowly from one side to the other, I'm still staring at that same point. Can't do it. I haven't changed where I'm staring. I am moving my head back and forth, and they call this a no-no, because it's kind of like I'm going no, no, no. You can also do the same thing as you do this by making a yes. Yes. Now that's way too fast. I should be doing, maybe 3 or 4 figure 8s, and then going back to the middle, and then going down, and then going up. Now you're going to not want to only do one hand. You can tell I've had a brain injury just doing these. You don't want to do just one hand. You want to do both hands and try to do them equal amounts. Now those are figure 8s to the side. What about figure 8s that cross this middle line of your body? We call that the midline. And this would be, it's crossing over to this side. Now it's over to this side. Okay? Now let's do one with the other arm. Okay? This is great. Like, we used to have to do arm circles, but these aren't meant to be arm circles. These are just making 8s and crossing that midline and stimulating different parts of the brain, okay? You can do them all. You can do them up here, you can do them down here, just lots of different figure 8s. Now, here's one that steps up the difficulty a little bit, and this is to take your arm and draw the letters of the alphabet. So I'm going to do all lowercase, but I'm drawing A. It's probably backwards for you. B. It's not backwards for me. Let me go back this way and do it. A, B, C, D, and have your kids do that all the way through the alphabet. Now, here's one. It even steps up the difficulty. Let's do it like a mirror. Like, let's say the mirror is right here, and I'm making my A. I'm going to turn around again. I'm going to make my A here. I'm going to take my other hand, and I'm going to go like opposite. A, B, it's hard to talk and do this. C, D, that's a B. This goes to show you how difficult it is to do these kinds of brain exercises and different things. So if you can have them doing it and talking at the same time, they're going to have difficulty. That's just proof that we're using all the different parts of our brain and that your teacher here has had a brain injury. So this is difficult for me, more difficult than it used to be, and very frustrating to say that, but it's good. Now, a lot of time we have tension in our necks and in our shoulders, especially when we've been working at the table, doing lots and lots of handwriting, doing lots of reading, looking down, maybe sitting in weird positions like homeschool kids definitely do. Doesn't mean they're sitting at the table. They might be sitting in the living room or sprawled around the floor. Let's check our neck for tension. So I'm going to just put it down and I'm going to check. And as I go around, yeah, I can definitely feel areas of tension. I have been on my computer all day, so I have more tension than maybe a child would. You, mom, are more likely to be tense than your children are. So as you get to those areas of tension, maybe slow down a little bit and work it out and see if that will help you out. I think the only other thing I would say, going back to some of the cross pattern crawling, is to do something called a cross sit-up. So have your kids lie on their backs and do a sit-up, but instead of doing a full sit-up, take their right elbow, and I'm going to not be able to do this on camera, right elbow, and touch it to their left knee as they're doing a sit-up. Okay, of course you could do this standing as well. That's definitely a cross pattern. Have them lay down and do like little sit-ups as they touch. Those are fantastic. So those are some exercises that all cross the midline. I think once you've thought of these, you can think of many more instances in your life that you do cross pattern exercises. So for instance, riding your bike. Riding your bike is fantastic. Technically speaking, swinging on a swing is a cross pattern thing. It definitely stimulates. You're not going so much side to side as you are going forward and backwards, which gives you same ideas. Be able to do your 8s here, or you can do them here. Your brain is going in space and time in different directions. Swinging is fantastic. Playing on the monkey bars is fantastic. As they hang from the monkey bars, they are increasing their lung capacity, and that's just a fantastic thing for those kids. The more lung capacity they do, the more muscles they have. So get them outside working, get them outside helping with chores. These are fantastic things for kids and for adults. And as you do it, you will increase your energy, your oxygen, and oxygen is needed to grow new neurons. So I guess my point is, don't be just sitting inside doing school all day. Get outside. If the weather is bad, you can do these things in the living room. Members of Homeschooling Torah, access the PE curriculum that's available to you and do it each day. So I wanted to show you some of the exercises that we have in the PE curriculum. We have all kinds here, and I'm going to show you just a picture of some of the different ones, but I'm not going to go through them all, but you can have the kids doing jumping jacks as they stay their books of the Bible. You can have them touching their toes and stretching their arms and legs. Stretching is fantastic, and a lot of kids I have noticed in our culture, as we're on devices more and more and we're not outside, we need to get some of those tense areas out. We need to stretch. We need to see if we can touch our toes. In the curriculum as well, there are what we call the President's Executive Challenge. And in these, we have the children learning to run a certain distance or to do different activities. And you time them at the beginning of the year. And then as the year goes on, you time them to see if they've improved. Let the kids be competitive only with themselves. You're comparing my growth with my exercise levels. You know, I want to see that my time is shortened or that I can do more chin-ups or whatever. I'm not comparing myself to my little brother who is not as big as strong as me, and I'm not feeling down on myself because I'm not as strong as my older sister. That is not at all what we want to do. We want to keep this fun and light, but increasing our physical activity and our physical strength. Don't forget to have your kids drink water. Water is so important for so many processes in your body. If you're not drinking enough fluids, you're going to feel dehydrated. You could feel dizzy. Your kids can complain of stomach aches and headaches. In fact, my husband's sister is constantly asking my kids if they say, I have a stomach ache. She's like, how much water have you had to drink today? Now, the standard school of thought is that you're supposed to drink like half an ounce for every pound of body weight. So if you weighed 150 pounds, you'd be drinking 75 ounces a day. I'm not convinced that that's what we need. That's a lot of water. I'd like to say drink to taste, but here's the problem. We get busy with our lives, Mom, and you don't drink. And then when you don't have fluids, your brain's not going to be firing on every cylinder. So maybe do some math, figure out about how much you should be drinking, cut it down if you think that's too much, because you don't want to have too much fluids either. See how thirsty you are on a day. So on a hot day like today, I'm going to drink more than I would on a day that's in the middle of, September, October, when the weather's calm. In the middle of winter, when we have the heat on and the house is very dry, we need to up that water consumption again, which really affects us as homeschoolers. So make a spot in your teacher notebook. Maybe put a little sticky note that says, drink my water, and then move that sticky note to next week's lessons when you get there, and just keep reminding yourself, drink my water. Another good place for putting alarms on your phone is to remind yourself, have I had a drink lately? Maybe I should have something to drink. It doesn't have to be water. I'm a big fan fan of raw milk, so if you have some good farm milk available to you, by all means, that's good for you too. Fruits and vegetables that are high in water content do give you fluids, but it's just a lot easier sometimes to remember to drink. Okay, take a drink as much as possible. I do advise your children to stay away from drinks that are high in sugar, specifically high fructose corn syrup. There is some question about even the process of making high fructose corn syrup, whether sometimes they have to pass things through gelatin to make the conversion from corn syrup to high fructose corn syrup. High fructose corn syrup is an ingredient that never existed anywhere in nature until recently when man concocted it. So I kind of feel about high fructose corn syrup like I do about things like vaccines. I'm not a big fan, and I think that we should probably avoid it as much as possible. Now let's talk about some eye exercises. Eyes get a lot of use in homeschooling. But even beyond that, when I had my traumatic brain injury, I discovered something that I didn't know, and I didn't discover it, I'm sorry. My doctor taught me that the eyes map the brain. Every area of your brain is controlled by something inside your eye. Your eye performs a lot more purposes than just vision, and that's crazy to me. For instance, if you close your eyes, you can still feel where you are in time and space, and that is because your eyes are still working. A blind person's eyes are definitely still working. It's just one small area of their brain that isn't working, or maybe they had an injury to the eye. But generally speaking, our eyes do so much in the world that we can fix brain injuries by the way we use our eyes. There are some tests that you can do to determine where areas of brain injury are, but we're going to send you to your handout to links sessions that I've already done, resources and things that are already on our website, and I'm not going to get into that today. So today I'm just going to give you some good eye exercises for literally everybody in the family. If anyone complains about feeling dizzy or getting a migraine or some other weird symptoms, then you need to stop. You're doing too much. But generally speaking, these are exercises that anyone can do with caution, okay? The first one, this is really easy, is pick a point that's really close to you. So let's say I put my finger up in front of me, and that's a close point, okay? Maybe to a point where you're not seeing two of them, okay? And then pick a point that's far away. So over there I can see my neighbor's garage, and I'm gonna look at the peak of the garage, okay? So I'm looking at my finger and then the peak. Finger, peak. Let me get up closer so you can see my eyes. Finger, peak, finger, peak, finger, peak. So I'm going near and far and near and far. Sometimes when I'm at my desk, I look at something on my monitor, and then I look out the window at a bird that's sitting on the roof of a house down the street, okay? I can find a leaf on a tree. And when you look at it, you want to try to make it as clear as possible, not fuzzy. And as you look at your finger, you want it to be as clear as possible, not fuzzy. And those eye exercises are so good, especially when your eyes are tired. Number two, you could take a yo-yo or something and swing it, all right? And as it swings in front of you, and I should have brought a yo-yo out, and as you make it go back and forth, you're watching the yo-yo go back and forth and back and forth, and then have it going front to back. Again, this is kind of like going to the park and swinging on a swing and watching mom say, "Hi, Mom," as they're going back and forth. They're doing eye exercises. It's fantastic. All right, number three, have your children do some sort of activity, a fine activity, and have them close an eye while they do it. Now, when I had my brain injury, I did counted cross stitch. So I'd thread my needle and start making the little X's in the fabric. It's like embroidery, in case you haven't done that before. And so as I was doing it, I would close one eye and continue to sew, and do it for about 10 seconds, and then close the other eye and keep going for about 10 seconds. So it wouldn't have to be kind of cross stitch. It could be drawing, coloring in a coloring book, any activity that you're doing, looking down at a book and read with just one eye and then the other eye for a little bit. And those are easy exercises. So if your kids are tired, you can do some of these exercises right during the school day and say, okay, stop for a second, let's do this exercise. The next one we call Cicades, and Cicades, very much like making the swing, but instead of swinging with the yo-yo back and forth, we're going to quickly go about 12 inches apart. I'm going to take my fingers about 12 inches apart here, and I'm going to look first to one and then quickly to the other. And then this, I think I have an ant on my finger. This one, and then this one. Try not to move my head, just my eyes. Now I can move them, and I can move them. Usually about 10 each way is plenty. Sometimes my kids enjoy putting their fingers up and having me touch them, okay? Touch, touch, okay? touch. Here you can see me doing this with my son. Another great one is what we call pencil push-ups, okay? And this, I'm gonna hold my pencil and I'm gonna bring it closer until I see 2 of them. And whenever I see 2 of them, I'm going to stop. And I'm gonna look away, kind of clear my eyes, and then come back to it, get it clear, and see if I can come closer. Seeing 2 of them, look away. Now look clear. All right, let's go back out. All right, nice and clear. Now let's come back in. These are good exercises to do, help your children that are nearsighted and farsighted. You'll see really quick which kids are which. Doesn't mean you have to rush off to get glasses necessarily. You can keep doing these kinds of exercises every day and it will probably improve your vision. If it doesn't, then it's time to see an eye doctor. I also love to do Brock beads, and I'm going to show you what these are on the screen here. Brock beads are very much similar to those pencil push-ups, except that I'm finding the dots, and as I get closer, I need to make the dots cross. How do I explain this on a video? I need to have, as I look at each ball on this string, the lines are going out. It's just the way my eyes work. The lines are kind of making this X pattern, and so I stare at the dot, the ball that's on the bead that's on the string, and then the lines make this cross, and then I come to the next one, and you want to see these crosses as nice and clear. You only want to see 1 ball, no doubles here, okay? So you can ask your kids, what do you see? Now, if they see great, then bring those beads closer to their nose, okay? If you're having trouble, get the beads further away. These Brock beads are used by sharpshooters to help them improve their vision. So it's perfectly fine for anyone. You don't have to have a brain injury to do these. I just have them hanging on the coat rack inside our front door, and anytime we can run over, have the top part of it is hanging here, and I can just pull it out and start working on it. They're great. Another really great thing to do for your eyes is a maze. So print out some mazes from some website online, have your kids do it, but every once in a while, kind of like when you're playing musical chairs and the music stops and everyone has to do something else, they have to hold still or try to find a spot to sit. I kind of do a musical maze. So have the song going and everyone's working on the maze, and while they're drawing with their pencil and they're trying very hard to stay in the line, suddenly the music stops and they have to get up and run around the table. Okay, and then what that's doing is that's taking your vision from a tight thing up close to your vision is now in the room and running around the table. Now back, and the music's going and you're intensely trying. Now you don't want to touch the line, have them be really, close at it. If you want to make it more difficult, have your eyes get closer to the maze. Okay, so these are just fun activities that you can do with your children. Frankly, that running around the table thing is handy anytime. You can run around the table, you can run around the house. I don't know how many times I've told my children over the years, okay guys, everyone run around the house 3 times. Depends on how big your house is. You might want to run around, something else. You might want to have them go out the back door and run to the tree and back. Okay, run 3 times. Let's go back to math. Okay, so these are some ways that you can train your brain and take a break from the heavy thinking that you've been doing. I want to mention that our brains are very closely connected to our gut. So you need to have a healthy gut. And if you have a child that's complaining of that, stick them on some good heavy-duty probiotics. You might want to stay on probiotics for a while. Talk to your local health practitioner, someone that you trust. If you don't know anyone, I'm going to recommend some in your handout that you could talk to. But a good probiotic is a wise thing for children in our society, with so much in our environment that is difficult, from the plastics and things that are in our soil and in our drinking water to the antibiotics that get dumped into our drinking water and are existing in so much of our meats and our dairy and the fat that we consume. So I think a probiotic is a really wise thing for a child, but you want to make sure, and for you too, Mom, you want to make sure that it's clean, biblically clean, that there are no ingredients in it that are bad. So if you're not sure, reach out to the health practitioner that I recommended in the handout and see if he can help you out. Now, one last thing, and then I'm just going to close this session, but I want you to try to do brain exercises. If there's something that you're working on and you have a brain issue or an eye issue or attention span issue, then you want to try to work on brain exercises literally every day. Be consistent. Say, oh, it's the time of day that we need brain exercises. Now, yes, you can have those short breaks where you run around the house and do something because everyone is getting a little squirrely, but you also need the consistent times. Whether you're using a PE curriculum and it's consistent time every day, or you're doing every day between, say, math and phonics, you have a break for brain training. It's most effective if it's done consistently at the same time every day. Now, I would advise that you as a mom write down in a journal what is working, what problems are my children having. Notice all kinds of health problems, and you can use those to start Googling, to start trying to figure out how to fix them. But that journal is going to help you see progress, and it's also going to help you see areas that are weak. So let's say that even your children are working on how many push-ups can I do every day, and you have one child that is really struggling and can't even get to 10. And every day, maybe around 6, the child just falls apart because he doesn't have strong enough muscles to complete those push-ups. Then you want to have written down in your journal, okay, you got 6 done, and tomorrow maybe you can work on 7. You don't want to tell your child, let's get to 50. You're just going to increase it. But keeping that journal will help everybody see the progress. It's so encouraging, and I really encourage you as a mom to keep a journal above all things. That's what your teacher binder's for. You need areas in there where you can just write down these things and keep track, and it will help everyone be more consistent and encouraged. And last but not least, if your day is going rough, and everyone has a day like that, I want you to think through 3 questions. And maybe your day is going great, but and you need to think through these 3 questions too. I tend to not think of it unless my day goes bad. But here are the 3 questions. First of all, okay, let's say, before I give you the first question, let's say that everyone is melting down. It's math time. And all of a sudden we have tears all around the table. This one can't figure out how to do the story problem. That one can't remember how to multiply. This one is totally daydreaming. And over here you've got one that hit his sister and took away her toy, and now she's crying on the floor because she's little. And so you have that kind of thing going on. Number 1, how could I have made this task more manageable? Okay, you need to think through, if it's math time, what could you have done? What could you do tomorrow to make this more manageable for everyone so they don't get so overwhelmed and overdone? Number 2, how can I eliminate distractions? I had mentioned a lot of things going on around that table right there, both external distractions and even internal distractions like hunger and fatigue, or maybe listening to music, or just thinking about a stressful situation that's going on in your life. Those are all distractions. What can you do to eliminate some of those distractions? And third, are there any visual aids that could support these brains at this point? These brains are struggling with their multiplication facts. Are there any visual aids? Maybe it's a story problem that made my child melt down. Could we draw a picture? Could we go over to the chalkboard? Instead of doing it on paper where our eyes are up close, can we go up to the chalkboard and do it big? Okay, we're totally switching to new areas of our brain right there. And sometimes it makes a huge difference, and sometimes the visual aid itself. And I find these questions are very biblical, because it's not about learning multiplication tables, and it's not about studying and getting facts and being the smartest person in the room, but it's about mom and dad having discussions, talking with our children as we walk by the way, as we lie down, as we rise up, as we sit. You know, all of these things are times that we can have discussions with our children, and then putting his commands on the wall. That's the same thing with putting math facts on the wall. So those 3 things, again, are what could I have done to make the task more manageable? What can I do to eliminate distractions, both inside and outside, the person's body? And 3, what visual aids could I have given my child to help them out, and see if that helps. So these are all things we can do to help our brains manage, to help our brains keep going when we're tired, and to strengthen and grow new neurons. And I really hope it helped you out.